Welcome, everyone. It is good to be seen by you. I actually can't see any of you, but I know there's about 100 people sitting there in this webinar. We're really excited to jump in here. I would love for everybody over in the chat, hopefully you can see that section, to just let us know where you're coming to us from. Where is your church located? Would love to just sort of see those cities coming through. I'm going to assume a lot of Texas, because there's a lot of churches in Texas, maybe a lot of Florida, but just let us know where you're coming from. And we're really excited. There's a Florida. Seattle, love it. Austin, New York City, that's amazing. Okay. We're really excited for you guys all to be here today. And I just want to introduce our panel of experts, panel of guests. My name is John Warren. I work with Subsplash. I work for Subsplash. My title is Enterprise Growth Manager, which essentially means I work with kind of our largest ministries and churches and really help them with consulting and strategizing on how to leverage the Subsplash digital tools to engage their churches, the members of their church, to help them grow in discipleship and unleash generosity within their congregation. So that's my role here at Subsplash. I'm kind of hosting this webinar today, and I'll turn it over to Brad. He'll let you know who he is and where he's coming from.
Yeah, thanks, John. My name is Brad. I'm with Ministry Engine. We're a group that comes alongside churches, help them build strategies around a lot of different things, and some of that we're going to talk about today. I've got about 20 years in ministry experience, mostly as an executive pastor at some large multi-site churches, and really excited to learn today. So, Jonathan.
Hello, I'm Jonathan. I'm recovering from a cold, so if I sound a little like Cruella de Vil or something, I'm sorry. But I'm from Finch. I'm a CPA, tax professor, and at Finch, which is the company I founded, we are essentially a back office bookkeeping, budgeting, and payroll company. We help churches navigate all that financial uncertainty, confidence, provide a nice backstop for expert support and service. I'll pass it over to Greg.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hey, everyone, I'm Greg, and I get to work with Ministry Engine and my tribe, because the men and women that lead churches all over America are the people that I love to serve. And so at Ministry Engine, I help with capital campaigns and creating a culture of giving. And I've been in ministry for about 35 years, and just thrilled to be on the call with these other friends of mine.
It's wonderful. Here's the obligatory we have to say this. The information in this webinar really is for educational purposes only and should not be considered legal or tax advice. At Subsplash, I always say I'm the non-smart person in the room. Please talk to the smart people in and around your church. Consult with your financial or tax professional regarding charitable contributions. So with that out of the way, here is the agenda today, and we're gonna jump in pretty deep, pretty quickly. One of the things that is so incredible about these other brothers here on this call is that we all share in mind and in our hearts that the church is the hope of the world, carrying the most important message in the universe. And so what we're sharing today is, how do we equip the church? How do we help the church? How do we help you as a minister of the gospel with these particular strategies in order to accelerate the sharing of the good news of Jesus Christ in your communities and around the world? That is our heart at Subsplash. I know that's the heart of Finch and Ministry Engine. Greg, Brad, Jonathan, we all share in that desire. And so as you sort of hear and receive this content today, just know that that's where it's coming from. We're so excited to be able to partner with churches to unleash generosity and help them to reach more people with the life-changing message of Jesus. So we're going to talk about the crisis of cash. We're going to talk about some other security things, some other acronyms. We're going to throw a lot of acronyms at you. One thing for you to know is we are recording this and we will send it out tomorrow. So you don't need to feel like you have to take furious notes because we will be sending it to you here in just a little bit. So for the first section, I'm going to send it over to Brad to kind of discuss the big picture, kind of the current state of where the church is sitting.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think most of you who are on this call are probably more like me than you are some of our intelligent panelists on here. You probably come at this from a pastoral perspective. And when we talk about money, oftentimes pastors can be very insecure around that topic, not really wanting to talk about it. And it leads to two problems. The first problem is that we tend to lag behind the conversation, the language, the landscape of wealth and where our people are in our congregation, and so we tend to be behind. You know, when I got into ministry, we were dealing with cash or check, right? The big debate was, do you pass the plate or do you put a box in the back? And the landscape has changed, and it's different, and people are managing their wealth in a much more and a lot more variety these days. And so what happens is if we're insecure around that conversation, we don't have the language to actually talk with the members of our churches, and we get in the unenviable position of sitting back and watching others be able to have that conversation without us. And so part of the goal today is to catch up. What is that language? What are the things that we need to be at least to have an awareness and a working conversational vocabulary, so that we can at least be in the conversation with them? Because this is not just a topic around the need to meet the budget of the church. It's a topic that really is central to the discipleship of our people. Jesus talked about money a lot because our wallets are a window into our hearts. And so when we're insecure around this topic, we tend to kind of be apologetic and default to this. Hey, these are the rules around money. This is how much you should give. If you're a good Christian, you should tithe, or you should give around this amount, versus a paradigm that we'd like to see, which is this is about growing as a disciple of Jesus, about faithfully stewarding what he has for us, and learning to actually enjoy generosity and being a part of what God's doing through our church. And so hopefully that helps set this up. I'm going to turn it over to the guys who can get into the technical bits of how we do that better. So let me hand that over to Greg.
Yeah, I mean, as a pastor, I never thought I would be in a conversation like this one about stocks and crypto and things like that. So if you feel a little kind of freaked out by this, just hang on, because we've got the right guys on the call to kind of demystify some of these things. And when it comes to this, what I want to encourage you to think about is, as you're discipling people, as Brad said, and as you're kind of catching up on the conversation, you just need to know that there's some pretty cool stuff that's happening in the donor world right now. And Christian people kind of know about it, and we just need to kind of catch up so that we can have an intelligent conversation with them about it. I mean, think about this. You know, as Brad said, we all come from a world, or many of us, there's probably men and women on this call that are a lot younger than Brad and I. So maybe you don't remember those days of box in the back or plate. But here's the deal. The average cash donation is a little over $100, whereas once you start looking at some of the crypto and stock stuff, what we would call non-cash donation, the numbers jump considerably, which is pretty cool and really exciting to think about for your church. And of course, Subsplash has the way to help you with this. But more than that, you just need to know there's a ton of potential here as you figure out how to communicate with people about this, because donors want to have options that are, I would call, a double win. And so this is where I'm going to kick it over to Jonathan, because he can help you with really understanding and demystifying what does it mean for a donor to give something other than cash.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, and another thing that's cool about this is the reason that this was all created, Congress voted on this stuff. It's not some sketchy thing behind closed doors. This is stuff that they're trying to do to incentivize generosity and incentivize giving to churches. And so to miss these opportunities, not take advantage of them, oftentimes it's just missing a benefit that's been carved out in the tax code already. So I'm going to walk through a quick example to show why we would be looking for an appreciated property. I'm going to call it that. I'm going to use a few words that I'll try and demystify a little bit, but stocks or appreciated property, a lot of people that are in your upper middle class or upper class have these appreciated stocks, appreciated bonds, appreciated investments. And what they're typically running into is, okay, I need to sell these investments, but when I sell them, I'm going to have taxable income. And then after I have all this taxable income at my maximum 50% brackets, things like that, I'm going to pay tax on it. And then I'm going to also donate after that. And so the Congress has basically carved out this double win, which is when somebody gives the appreciated property, which is stock. Say I bought a stock for $5 and I sold it for 10. That extra appreciation, that difference in value, they don't pay tax on that value. So they get to exclude it from income. And then on top of that, they also get to deduct the entirety of that value. So we can go to the next slide, and I'm going to use an example because, as I usually tell my students or other pastors when we're walking through this, to go through a nice stock deduction they have, I say using my hands is helpful. So I'm going to use my hands and some numbers, and I think it'll add quite a bit of clarity here. So let's say you bought $10,000 of stock, right? So we're here at 10 grand. And then over time, it goes up to 25 grand. So we have this built-in 15,000 of income, right? So what would normally happen is they would sell all that stock, and then they would pay tax on that sale to 2,500 to 3,000. Then after that, they would deduct whatever they gave via cash, right? So, let's say they gave whatever they gave on it, right? They would deduct it, and then they would take a charitable deduction. Well, what this allows someone to do is they start here, they have their $15,000 appreciation. They give it straight to the church. The church accepts it directly through the brokerage account. Well, now they gave the church a $25,000 deduction, not a $10,000 deduction. So the church gets $25,000. They don't have to pick up any tax on this different. So it saves them $3 grand. Then they get a $25,000 charitable deduction, which is then going to save them another $8,000. So now they've saved $8,000 and $3,000 instead of just giving a standard deduction in cash. And so it's a very fantastic way to get through to people who maybe don't even know it exists. And if they did know it exists, they can reach out to their brokers to get that stuff moving. So from there, pass back to Greg.
Yeah, what's exciting to me is that I've met a lot of Christian people that just need to be reminded that there are these other options. And so pastors and church leaders, the men and women on this call, don't get freaked out about all the technical stuff. Your people actually know a lot of this, and their financial planners help them with this. So that's been my experience, is just when you say to somebody, hey, remember, you can do stock. And most people go, oh, yeah, that's right. I got to talk to my planner about that. And so even just that little nudge of encouragement, as well as any other thing that we're going to talk about today, which is, hey, a lot of this is just reminding people of something that maybe is an option they weren't thinking of connected to their church. So we're about to hit December. It's not too late for you to start putting together some things that would encourage people to have those conversations with their spouse or financial planner or tax attorney or whatever. And so we're just going to suggest that you get some of your communications media people and start creating some, for instance, a dedicated landing page or some sort of a PDF that kind of says, in essence, hey, here at our church, we get it. We know that this is an option and we're ready to receive it. And here's who you should talk to. And we suggest this and that, or email this person for more information. Anyway, I think you know how to do the comm stuff pretty well at most churches, but we're just saying, get some of that stuff going right now. Start to create some of that communication, whether it's emails, landing pages, PDFs, to show that you understand what's going on. We also suggest that you don't just sort of shoot this wildly to the whole congregation, because for some people it may be intimidating. This is definitely, as Jonathan said, for some of your higher capacity, higher net folks. And so though it's an imperfect way of finding them, one of the things we suggest is that you just take sort of the top cut or top section of your giving database. And you can do that by calculating what people have given over the last couple of years and find out maybe a top 15%. And that's going to be a smaller portion of your congregation But those folks won't be freaked out if you send them a reminder about the things that we're talking about today. Because again, they're probably talking about it, or they have other nonprofits that are asking them about it as well. So you can do some targeted emailing about this kind of stuff to a certain segment of your congregation.
Yeah, and I know I said it earlier that we're going to send this out in a recording. I'll probably say it a few more times. But we also have this end of year giving playbook that has templates for some emails, for some social media posts and things like that. You don't have to try to cook this up out of nothing. We have done a lot of that work for you. So there's a banner that's come across. You can just click on that and grab that resource for you. And I don't want us to miss what Greg said there. Other nonprofits are asking members of your church to donate to them. And that's certainly well within their right to do. But part of the hurdle the church has to overcome that Greg mentioned is not being afraid of the conversation, but to lean in, because it really is a discipleship issue. And it is an opportunity pastorally for you to come alongside your congregation and encourage them in this particular way. And so for the next acronym, the next fun acronym, I'm going to send it over to Greg to talk about donor advised funds.
All right, here it is, baby. Donor Advised Fund, DAF. If you don't know it, you got to know it, because it's one of the most popular things going on in giving right now. So pastors and church leaders, probably some of you have them, so I don't want to presume you know nothing. There's probably people on this call that know a lot about this. But the amazing thing about a donor advised fund, again, it's an account basically that a donor opens up. And again, maybe some of you have done it for your family. But it's like a super cool savings account where when you need a charitable deduction, you put it into your own savings account called a donor advised fund, and it stays in there and builds until you want to distribute that money to one of your churches or charities. So anyway, it's like a special savings account. You can put money in there whenever you want. Jonathan will help you with a little bit more of the technical stuff related to it. But honestly, it's fairly easy. Like any financial group that's doing anything right now, Fidelity, Thrivent, Vanguard, any of the ones that you're probably using for other investments have a DAF option. And you open the account, and then you're able to put money in there when it's tax advantage to you, and then take it out whenever you want to give it to your church or other group that you're trying to give to. So donor advised funds are pretty cool, and you want to know that language so that you can add that again into some of the comms, the communication stuff at your church. And so Jonathan, tell us a little bit about like why donors are into this, why it's becoming so popular.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to preface again, just like I do on every slide here. Some of the stuff we're going over is pretty complicated. So if you're following along, great. I think if you get a little lost in it, that's totally fine. What the goal here when I'm explaining it is that you'll know, hey, I kind of know how this works, just kind of, and that's a good enough takeaway to point somebody in the right direction. You don't have to master this, because as many arm gestures as I do, it's a lot of stuff to learn fast. And even students in my tax class, they have weeks to learn some of this stuff. So anyway, I don't want you to feel like it's just sailing over. I'm doing my best, but I just want to plant a seed there. And so with that, I'm going to talk about the idea of why a high net worth individual may have a DAF. You don't have to be high net worth to have a DAF, but typically when my clients get DAFs, it's because they noticed that the giving that they do doesn't match, the style of giving they do doesn't match how they get paid. And so your average cash donation, that $121, oftentimes that average cash donation is somebody who gets a consistent paycheck every month. They take a little bit out of that check every month and they give it to the church. Somebody who has a DAF, they may be like, an investment banker where they make $0 for 3 years and then they sell a big building and then they make $1 million and then they make $0 again for the next 3 years. And it's basically like making $333,000 a year, but it's all in 1 year, right? And so that strategy doesn't really work for them. So that's what DAFs are here for. It allows people flexibility, and it allows them simplicity to just make that big deduction in their big year when they're in their highest tax bracket. And then they can tell the donor advised fund to give it to their church over all the other years. And so someone who otherwise wouldn't have given as much will essentially be able to give more with that donor advised fund. And so that will lead into this bunching strategy. So when I gave you that illustration, what that individual's doing who made that large income position in that year, they're essentially saying, I'm going to give 3 years worth of my giving in that 1 year. And I'm going to push my tax bracket way down, right? So instead of 50%, I made $1 million, I'm going to give 300,000 of it into my donor advised fund. Cool. I lowered my income down. I'm in a lower tax bracket, so I'm a little better off. And then I'm going to have my donor advised fund give over those years to spread out my charitable deduction to the church while also helping me from my tax return. So what I would encourage with the strategy is I would bring up that they exist, right? Show some expertise on that. And when you bring up that it exists, you essentially want to say, have you guys considered a donor advised fund? They're really cool. If you have income that fluctuates quite a bit, it can give you some flexibility. Want to talk to your CPA about this, right? So it's a immediate, we know a donor advised fund exists. It's a really cool vehicle for you if you have, income that fluxes a lot, or you want to bunch income together, go talk to your tax advisor. So immediately offload that, because that's where the next person can pick up the baton.
That's great. We've got another acronym to talk about, because QCDs were actually new to me, and come to find out that's probably a good thing, because I'm only in my 40s. I'm not nearly old enough to leverage this, but there is an incredible amount of wealth in the baby boomer generation. It's unprecedented in the history of the world, actually. And QCDs are a thing that, although not new, I think is a wonderful opportunity for churches to talk about. So, Jonathan, can you just tell me, what is a QCD? How is it different?
Yeah. So basically, everybody typically ends up with a retirement account somehow, right? By the time they're getting ready to retire. So what they can do is, a QCD is making a charitable deduction directly from your retirement account. So instead of taking that money out of your retirement, you're then having your retirement account give it straight to a church.
So obviously you have to be of retirement age. I see 70 and a half on the screen. That's an exact number. You can't be 67.
Yeah. You want to be sure that you're at the right age. I have a lot of clients where I find some of this out after the fact, that they took matters into their own hands and took some distributions early, and you can't really go back. So yeah, you want to make sure you're of age. I would always just say, whoever's managing the brokerage account, I always encourage, just talk to them. They're going to tell you if you're good enough to take it. If you can't count your age on your hand, or you don't want to, like me.
You're living in denial a little bit, maybe. That's okay.
Yep.
We're all doing our best.
Yep.
So you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but just to be really clear, how is the QCD just fundamentally different from, that $121 cash donation that happens weekly or monthly?
Yeah. I'll tie this back to my very first analogy for the capital gain on appreciated property, because it uses the exact same mechanical components. Just like when you donated appreciated property and you didn't have to report this income. It's the same thing here. If you have your retirement account give directly to the charitable organization, instead of picking up your retirement distribution and making money, then donating it, you skip that part. You don't pick it up in income. So you get to remove that piece, and it's like you didn't make any money. And this is very helpful, especially for retired folks, because it adjusts your taxable income. Your AGI is what we will call it. Technically, it means adjusted gross income. But that's really important for retirees, because they're trying to pencil out taxability on their Social Security, taxability on their retirement, and it helps lower all of the taxes in all the other areas of where they're at by not picking up this extra stuff. So it allows them to give their deduction while keeping their income low enough that, again, Social Security is taxed at a better rate and things like that.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
And so this next slide here, we just kind of want to peel back the layer a little bit to say there really is an opportunity here to potentially host something with those people in your congregation that are of the age where this actually makes sense for them, and maybe they're unaware of it, or maybe they just don't know, again, that your church is in a place to receive contributions like this. And so you certainly can lean in here, target, segment your communication, as Greg has already said a few times, find those particular people and come alongside them in this unique way. Since QCDs are a little bit more technical, Jonathan, what are some things you would encourage us to say or not say when we're talking about these kinds of donations?
Yeah, absolutely. As usual with these types of disclaimers, it can feel pedantic, kind of like we're trying to make use of things that sound all similar, but it's really just leaning into what the IRS qualifies these things as, and not putting excess liability on the church. So things you don't want to say, you don't want to say the normal things you would put on every other donation letter. So things like tax deductible gift, things like thanks for your donation, I don't know, whatever, right? The usual things we post. What you want to say instead, because it's not a deduction, you just want to say thank you for your qualified charitable distribution of, then you have an amount received on date, and then you say no goods or services were provided. And so when at Finch, when a lot of our clients will receive these, they'll just ask us, hey, this isn't cash, what do I need to do? And then we'll send them a template like that. If you don't have a provider like us, or if you do it internally, I would just encourage you to just build out a template for yourself, and then you use it like this and pull it out of the file cabinet, so to speak, Google Drive, whenever somebody gives you a donation like this.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and speaking of templates, I know there's a lot of things going on in every local church leading up to the holidays. So we actually have a bunch of free graphic templates for you to leverage and use. You can scan that QR code. Again, we'll send this out tomorrow. You can also just sign up for those templates there in that banner. Just another way we want to try to equip you to be able to share this creatively with your church and let them know that you're ready to receive those donations. And so the advanced strategy number 4 here, I'm going to kick it back to Greg to really talk about communication and messaging. Now that we've sort of covered, man, there are all these different vehicles by which people can donate to the church. Man, how do we share more about those particular things? How do we communicate that? What's the right language around some of that?
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? It's where we're going to, kind of put this stuff into practice. And so take a deep breath. You're doing great. You've lasted this far in our webinar on some pretty heady stuff. And let's just get down to, what do you do with all these templates you're going to get from Subsplash? How can we deploy them? Here's the good news. I think there's a lot of good news. One of them is we can try some of this stuff right now and kind of run an experiment in a way this December. And just see how it goes and see how our donors respond. But this isn't only for December. Remember, we're giving you some tools here that last throughout the year as you're creating a culture of generosity. So think through that this is something that's evergreen. I mean, we want you to get some stuff like deployed right now, right? So that's why we're giving you templates. And now you have these guys that are on this call that'll help you with anything you need after the webinar. But remember that this is an evergreen relationship you have with the people in your congregation. It's part of the discipleship environment that you're creating. And so this is not just a one-off, like, hey, let's do a bunch of this stuff for December so we can grab a bunch of money. That's not what we're talking about here. We think December is a great opportunity to deploy some of these things. But remember that these are partners in ministry, the men and women in your congregation that are leaning forward, that want to help with what you're doing at your church. You're in a long-term relationship with them, not a transactional one. So the cool part about just what we're giving to you is more tools for your toolkit of discipleship around generosity. So we want you to see it as that. And, Brad, and there's ways that we can communicate so that people don't see it as simply, transactional, kind of making the church budget, right?
Yeah. And sometimes we get so focused in on the strategy and the numbers and the budget and the details that we actually we make the mistake of putting our congregation into a separate bucket than ourselves, right? And it becomes we've got a plan. We need you to fund that plan. And so the advice that I can give from my own mistakes is to step back, take a breath. Remember, we're all on a journey with God on this. He is at the wheel. He's got a vision for our church. He's got a mission for our church, and we're doing this together. So once we've looked at these strategies, we then want to communicate in a way that says, this is what we're doing together. This is what God has called all of us to do together. And you want to tie the financial targets and the idea of generosity to what we believe God has called us to accomplish. And at the end of the day, that comes through prayerful consideration and time with the Lord, and as a team and as a congregation praying through that. And we want to tie those targets to our ministry outcomes. We want to see the kingdom advance. We want to see the name of Jesus made great. We're not asking for generosity so that the name of my church can be a big deal. We want the name of Jesus to be a big deal. And so always remember that. And for those of us who are, I have an engineering degree, so I probably relate to Jonathan there. Like, I like spreadsheets, I like numbers, and I have to come out of that and remember, like, this is about people. We're here trying to reach people and introducing them to Jesus. And as we talk about generosity, we want to make sure it always goes back to that ultimate outcome.
Okay, so what can we do right now?
Yeah.
But there's a few things that you may want to kind of audit at your church. For instance, there could be some hurdles or barriers to generosity. Like, if you don't have an easy interface with your giving page, that's something you want to look at as soon as possible. There's great technology that you can use very thoughtfully for helping encourage recurring giving and being able to, again, communicate through your website and through other forms of communication, that you kind of get this world of donations and how they can be different than just cash, and that you're ready to receive them. And that's really the posture you want to take, is not, hey, I'm now an expert at charitable giving, but rather, hey, I know enough about charitable giving that I want you to know that our church can receive it. For instance, if someone calls the church and says, hey, I heard you can make a stock transfer to the church as a way to give at year end. You don't want the person on the other end of the phone to go, stock? I've never heard of that before. You want your church to say, oh my gosh, we totally know what to do. Let's make sure you have the right information to make that stock transfer. So make it easy for people. Drop the barriers. Don't just have one way to give, but make sure that folks know that there's many ways in which they can give. So the other thing that we've mentioned before, but I want to remind you again, and maybe this is a new level of sophistication for some of the churches on this call, but it's really important that when you can, maybe even this December, you think about how not everyone at your church is in the same place, maybe socioeconomically or even spiritually, in their development as a generous disciple. So just to have sort of a one-size-fits-all communication is maybe not best. Now, that may be all of the resources and time you have to do, and that's okay, so do your best. But if there was a way for you to kind of parse this thing out, what if you had a message for people that were part of your church that haven't yet started to give? What if you had a different message for people who maybe were first-time givers or even large and consistent long-time givers? Like, it would be great if churches would start to consider a more relational approach to giving, as opposed to just simply kind of technical, clinical, or mathematical stuff about people's giving. So figure out ways to thank people, figure out ways to encourage people, figure out ways to send out things where you're talking about money, not just when you're asking for it. So one of the things we encourage at Ministry Engine is that you send out impact reports and celebrations of how money is being used without necessarily even asking someone for money, so that when the time comes, like now in December, when you ask them for money, they go, oh yeah, of course I'm going to give, because my church has demonstrated that God is using our church and our community and around the world. So of course, you all know this is the time of year where we can capitalize on the kind of the spirit of the season, if you will, but also the urgency around people making a decision about year-end giving. So as you can tell, I'm excited about this. I think it's a great opportunity for you all to try some things that maybe you've never tried before, and then circle back to people and say, kind of, how did that hit you? Was that helpful? And then make those adjustments that you need to make as you go into 2026 with the help of like these guys that are on this call, some of the templates you're going to get from us, and any other way that we can help you kind of create this culture of generosity.
Thanks so much. That's incredibly helpful. And just to sort of recap here, we've talked about these different vehicles for generosity: stock and crypto, donor advised funds, qualified charitable distributions. I think I got all the acronyms right. Jonathan will keep me honest. And then communication strategies around the why. One of the things when I was formerly a pastor was that we realized as a church that people will give to vision every single time. And so as you share a compelling vision for what God is doing in and through the ministries of your church, that is the fuel for the generosity within the congregation. So how do you capture that, communicate that, and maybe even more specifically communicate that to particular people in your church, whether they're high net worth individuals who have DAFs, they're older members of your congregation who maybe need to take advantage of a QCD, or the really younger and emerging generation that is investing a lot in stock and crypto technologies right now. Some of which, because they can't buy a house, they can't afford a house, so they're sending all this additional income into the stock market. They're seeing it gain a lot. So you just have so many different opportunities to engage your church in the discipline and joy of financial giving and generosity. So we just want to encourage you to do that. A few things. Again, this ebook is available for you. You can grab it, download it now. Check out just some additional resources, those templates, things like that we mentioned. There's also some things available if you're not a Subsplash client. If you somehow stumbled upon this because you got an email marketing thing from us, we would love for you to learn more about who Subsplash is and how we provide digital tools for you to engage your congregation and unleash generosity in your church. It's who we are. It's what we've been doing for 20 years. We would love to talk with you, and you can get a little bit off there on our onboarding package. If you're an existing client, we also have things for you. Connect with your client success manager. You can click the button. It'll forward the email to your client success manager. If you want to sign up for our Pulpit AI software that helps amplify the voice of your local pastor into the life of your congregation, or if you want to explore what using Subsplash giving, some of those technology pieces that Greg talked about, is right in our wheelhouse of what we do to help equip churches. You can connect with your CSM about that. We are so grateful for Finch and for Ministry Engine. And so, Jonathan, I know you guys have an opportunity for people to connect with you. So what can they expect from Finch if they click on that little blue button?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you click over there, you'll see an opportunity to book a consultation. That's where we can go over the Finch services, what we do, which is, again, we provide that whole back office finance and accounting function. So budgeting, bookkeeping, payroll, forecasting, answering questions like this. But additionally to that, just for the webinar today, we're also going to do, I set up a special package where if maybe you are big enough church where you have a full in-house team, or you already have a great provider, you may not need the whole Finch service, but you just want to hear a little more about how to mechanically do some of this from CPA perspective, you can schedule a consult with us. And so you'll see an opportunity to do that on the page with the QR code.
That's great. And then Brad, did you want to share about Ministry Engine? Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, it's been great. I've even learned a ton over the last week preparing for this. If you check out Ministry Engine, check out that link. It's going to take you to a diagnostic that's going to walk you through what might be some areas at your church that could be holding you back, holding your vision back. You know, if you're like me, it's November 19th, and I'm thinking about Easter, like Thanksgiving and Christmas, like they've already sailed. Like I'm ahead. So if you're in that place and you're saying, man, I wish I would have known this stuff before November of 2025, let's not let that happen again. Let's talk about how do you build a strategy. The stuff that we're talking about today is a component of a bigger strategy of advancing the gospel at your church. So head over there. The diagnostic will walk through a couple things that we do, and give you some ideas on where maybe we could help out. And we'd love to connect.
That's great. Thanks for both those opportunities. And then again, here's those generosity graphic templates that you can take advantage of. And then again, we are recording this. It will be shared via email tomorrow. I saw a few questions in the chat about that. So we are going to be sending that out to you guys so you can review or share with your team and just sketch out some next steps for you. I do think we have a little time left for Q&A. So we're going to look at the questions. There is the opportunity, if you haven't gone over to that section yet, to upvote. If somebody else asked a question and you really liked it, you can do a little thumbs up. And so if you have, if that's showing up, or if you go to that little section, you can upvote. So I think what I'll do is just look at the top one, because that seems like the smartest thing to do. So one of the questions that came in is it best to list these options, I'm assuming like DAFs, QCDs, stock, and crypto, in a newsletter communication or on your webpage under donations? It sounds like maybe their members are a little bit older, average age, so that they have a list of options. Or should you only email it? Should you only text it? Greg, I'm going to toss this one to you and kind of get your expertise on that piece.
Yeah, I'd say two things. One of them is the great part about having it on the website in the giving or donation section of your website is that anyone in the whole church can point someone to the answer. So if anyone asks, well, what about this or what about that? People can say, oh, just go to the website. It's there. So I would say to have it ever on the website is helpful. Now, at the same time, people need to know it's there. So if you have older members, I think it would be helpful for you to even send a letter, like a U.S. mail letter, put it in the church newsletters, kind of a little more paper copy, old-fashioned kind of communication. So not surprisingly, I'd say it's both.
I would add to that, Greg, too, and something that even learned from Greg, which is that oftentimes when you go to our websites and you go to that giving page, it itself is transactional. It just tells you how. So we go hit the giving page, go to giving page. It might list those things, and it's a button to give. And we often forget to explain to people why. And so all those people out there, if you're thinking about how to update your website, don't forget to connect the vision that we've talked about on that page itself. You want people to understand why they're giving, even when they know how.
By the way, here's a hack. Here's a helpful tip. Go to your favorite nonprofit organizations and their websites. They often, the big ones, have a really great donor page that does everything we're asking you to consider doing right now. So don't reinvent the wheel. You don't need to have something customized per se. There's some great stuff out there. Just go find it on other people's websites.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why an organization like Ministry Engine or talking with your client success manager or other person at Subsplash is so very helpful, because we have outside eyes on your church and how you communicate. Mm-hmm. So we can go to your giving page and go, you might feel like this is very clear. Let me just tell you, it's not that clear. Yeah. It's full of insider language. It's mentioning things that I have no context for. So just another reason why getting some outside eyes on things is very helpful. It's a great question. Do we have another question? I'm being told it's just supposed to show up, which is like magic.
I've been slinging answers in there. I don't know if I'm doing it right.
Oh, maybe you're crushing all of them. Well, the one that has the most most votes is, what's one thing I should communicate to my church about this before year end? You only get one thing, Greg. What is it?
I think it is that the church is ready to receive non-cash kinds of gifts, and here's how to do it. So I think there should always be, like, you should create a PDF that you could attach to somebody in an email or distribute it in some other way, but basically just kind of say in one communication, in essence, don't forget, church friends, there's other ways to give other than cash, and here's a couple right here, and here's who you should talk to at the church to be able to expedite that. The end.
That's great. And I honestly feel like that's a great place for us to end. We really appreciate all of you guys for joining us. Brad, Greg, Jonathan, thank you so much for carving out time to serve the church this morning. What a delight it has been. And I pray that this conversation will bear fruit for years to come. So thank you guys. Be on the lookout for an email with all of the content. And if we can do anything, I know I speak for all three of the other brothers here. If we can do anything to serve your church, that's what we are here for. So please let us know. Thanks so much for your time.